All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Public Utilities Commission meeting for February of 2023. The first item on the agenda is is for me to swear myself in.
Yes. So if you could stand and raise your right hand and just read the statement there.
Yep. I, Seth R. Visser, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Minnesota and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the Office of Commissioner of Public Utilities Commission, said City of New Ulm in the County of Brown in the state of Minnesota to the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God. Now back to the agenda. The first item is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the Employee of the Month.
Yes, President Vesser, Commissioners, the Employee of the Month for January was Tim Nelson. Tim Nelson is an operator in our electric production department. This past December, during the Christmas holiday week, Tim Nelson showed true dedication to his job and outstanding abilities to keep the plant running efficiently and safety under some very stressful conditions and very long hours. Tim worked for several other operators who could not make it in because of snow and wind, and in doing so, gave up his own Christmas holidays off to help. In addition, we got called from MISO to run the gas turbines at the same time, which always adds more stress to the job. The most impressive part was that he never once complained about what he had to do and just did it and kept the plant running. I believe Tim deserves this nomination because of his knowledge and dedication to his job, and that makes the power plant a better place to work. So congratulations to Tim Nelson, and thank you.
I'll make the motion to recognize Tim Nelson as Employee of the Month for January 2023.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Tim, for your dedication. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for recodification of the Public Utilities Regulation. Do I just open the hearing? I open the hearing. Is there any comments or discussion? No? All right.
So we just need a motion to close the hearing there.
I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion approved. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and the motion carries.
No, the next one. these
Next one.
Yep.
The next item is item 4 is the amendment for recodification of the public utilities of the City of New Ulm.
Yes, President Vesser, Commissioners, the New Ulm Public Utilities Regulations were originally adopted in 1995. We've had several amendments that have come through which are updating specific regulations, and they have been approved by the PUC board since 95. However, this is the first time that the regulations have been recodified, and all the amendments have been added to the official document. There are some changes to the document as it is now. The majority of these changes are renumbering. They may be format-related, grammar-related, pretty much small in nature. But there are a couple changes that I felt I would just make mention of just for your information. And I've just kind of got a list of them here. I can go through them. I think in your packet was the red line version of the regulations as well as a copy of the actual adjusted or updated regulations that you will be approving. So I kind of went through it by regulation number. Some of these you may be familiar with. There's a couple of them that have been brought before you for informational purposes, but there was an official approval done at that time. But under the Regulation 111, this regulation has to do with billing and collection of accounts. There's a few changes or wordage changes that were added. One is to allow the finance director to use some discretion when setting utility billing in cycles. We have 3 cycles right now, so we have removed the specific reference to 3 cycles in the event that we would choose to reduce the number of billing cycles from 3 to another number. Remove the time designation for the payment received. This pertains to penalties that would be applied, and it went from 7:30 a.m. to in the morning. Remove the requirement that debit or credit card payments that are made online need to be made for the entire amount. What this does, it will restrict partial payments. Our software does now allow partial payments, so we have taken that language out of there. Also allows for the city to charge a convenience fee on those debit or credit charges if they so chose. And there used to be, due to our software, a $1,000 maximum limit for a debit or credit card payment. That too has been removed. So it doesn't matter how much the bill is, you can make that online. Regulation 115, delinquency and certification of water, sanitary sewer, and wastewater. I believe this may have been brought to you at another time just for informational purposes. But what this is going to do is allow the finance director to certify water, sanitary sewer, and wastewater charges to the county auditor for collection, which is allowed by a Minnesota statute. And 116, finance director authority follows in with that previous regulation where it gives the finance director the authority to collect the delinquent charges through multiple means. And one of those means would be through the Minnesota Revenue Recapture Act. That is an additional option as well as a collection agency, and other methods. So that just gives the finance director a little bit more authority to use other methods. Regulation 203 is under the electric section. It's electric charges and fees for service. This is just, it's just directing you to go to the PUC's current fee schedule to find any charges for upgrading your electrical service. It's not inside the regulations, but a separate fee schedule. Regulation 300 to 340, the water service, there was a few additional changes to that. It talked about establishing the location and material of some electric equipment, where that would be located when it's installed, as well as mention certain standards that need to be followed for the installation of those water services. It also set up a procedural requirements when making repairs to the water service. So the necessity of securing a permit, those types of things. And then it also, in the language, just verifies and acknowledges that the water service from the curb stop to the home is actually the responsibility of the homeowner. That was implied in the regulations, but this is just clear language to let people know that that is the case. Regulation 510, suspected natural gas leak on the customer's side of meter. This basically really simplified the language regarding the notification of a natural gas leak. It was very difficult to weed through. So it removes the grading of a natural gas leak. There was several different grades, and the remedial action for the requirements. And it basically says it allows for the PUC to specify a reasonable time for repairs to be completed, and requires the property owner to notify the PUC when the leak has been repaired for service connection. So it basically simplifies the language, and the gas department is going to do what they always have done. When there's a leak, they're going to show up and figure out what it is, but it just clears up the regulations. Regulation 600, wastewater service. This one we defined some best management practices, and we also defined some terms that are used within the regulations. This one you have not seen, but the original regulations require somebody that has a private septic system to connect to public sewer system within 60 days. This was brought to the commission probably about a year ago. We find that to be too onerous on the homeowner, and we've come up with a procedure for that now. So if an individual or individual homeowner has a private septic system, they would be under whatever the requirements of Brown County are. And so basically what that means is when the septic system is either emptied or when the property is sold, that septic system needs to be verified or certified at that time. If at the time of certification, the septic system does not pass, then the individual would at that time need to connect to the public sewer. And what we felt was, in discussion, that it was a fair way to do that, so that if someone had a septic system on their property, they would at least get the value of life out of that equipment. And so that's basically what this regulation is saying, that we'll follow what Brown County does. Brown County is going to notify staff in the city if a particular septic system within city limits does fail, and then at that point, we'll notify property owners that they'll need to get that replaced. It's based on the type of failure. There's two different failures within the county. One is a 10-month, has to be replaced within 10 months, and one is within 12 months. So we'll follow those same guidelines as Brown County. And it does allow for a temporary waiver if certain things apply. That waiver is to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission. So they would have to come before you and ask for a waiver to that procedure. And then this also, the last button here, defines the responsibility of the sewer service from the house or building to the sewer main to be the responsibility of the homeowner, similar to the water. However, sewer goes already all the way to the main because there is no curb stops for sanitary sewer. And then, in general, it removed the schedule of utility fees from the regulations as they're under a separate resolution and approved by the PUC. And then also updated the section of the Home Rule Charter relating to the utilities that were revised in 2018. So I guess we have a resolution to approve that attached to this. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer them for you.
So is this the first time it was reconciled since 95, all of this stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
Does it need to be done more often than that, or I don't know if there was a lot of changes, but it seems like a long time.
It is, it is a long time. However, it doesn't mean that nothing has changed since 95. Certainly, it could be brought before the commission on a more time, maybe every 10 years or 5 years or something like
City
that.
side, it's more, how many things have we changed?
Mm-hmm.
If you go a whole period where you only change one thing, it doesn't make sense to go through the whole recodification process.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of as needed, I guess.
But there was enough amendments to look at this, and yeah.
How many people are still on septic tanks in New Ulm?
We have probably about a dozen.
Really?
Yep, individuals that have a septic system that are within 200 feet of a public sewer. So this particular regulation would apply to them. There's also probably about another, I don't know, maybe 10 or so that have a septic system or holding tank, could be a holding tank as well, that are further than the 200 feet. And so it would not apply to them until a road were to go by them, or, public sewer would come within that particular distance.
Make a motion?
All right, well, I'll make the motion to approve resolution to appeal, amend, and recodify the regulations of the New Ulm Public Utilities in its entirety.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, we need to call the roll.
Commissioner Fingland,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaunis,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
and President Visser.
Yes. And passes, or it's approved. Next item is for a purchase of a gas-powered forklift for the distribution center.
Yes. This is basically just a notification, because it's under the limit that we had set for approval. But we wanted to let you know that we did purchase a new gas-fired forklift. I believe the forklift that's out there that we're replacing is from 1975, something like that, so it definitely was in need. We received 2 bids, and we went with the low bid for that, for $44,527.
I'll make the motion to receive and order filed the purchase of a new gas-powered forklift at the Materials and Distribution Center, the MDC, from Atlas Toyota in the amount of $44,527.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Do we need to call the roll on this one, too? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a cogeneration report from Derek.
Good evening. I am here to talk about and present part of the annual cogeneration report that's submitted each year. This is the first year I'm bringing this to you as the local governing body. In past years, it was sent to the Minnesota Department of Commerce and the Minnesota PUC. There's a handful of parts to this whole submittal of this cogeneration. The bulk of it is the MMIP, the Minnesota Municipal Interconnection Process, which is, it's kind of like the process overview and all the different steps and processes within, for an individual or an entity business that wants to interconnect with the utility. So the bulk of the attachments that I had in my agenda, the 250-some pages, I think, which is actually, excuse me, this book, that I'm sure you all read word for word, is the bulk of what I need to present to you. And when I mean present, present, I just need to have it on the agenda to show you as a local governing body that we have this, and it's available to anyone that's seeking interconnection with the utility. The other portions of that will be something that actually Beth will be discussing after I speak, which is the rate schedule for net metering and interconnection is one part of it. The next part is what I just mentioned, all the process overview, and then there's a simplified process, fast track process, study process. It's many different aspects to the whole interconnection process depending on the size of the system and how complex it is. And other electrical requirements and whatnot. The next would be the annual notification to the customer base, which would be going in probably the journal, but especially our newsletter, which will go to all customers. And then the last would be probably the one thing, if we do discuss anything, is the last attachment to agenda item, which is actually the Excel spreadsheet that I put together. And distributed energy resources, what they're talking about is anything that's interconnected to a utility. So in this case, all we have in New Ulm really that's interconnected that we can meter is solar, because we don't have any wind. Under the accounts, those are active applications. So within these accounts, there's actually a few locations that are, say, a residential customer installed solar 1 year and then came back a year or two later and they added on. That would actually be considered a separate account. Because I have another additional report that I send to Department of Commerce, and that's how they like that spread out. So there's actually, it states 20, but there's actually 18 active accounts currently in New Ulm. The first application was decommissioned a few years back, but it still gets reported to the state with a different. And then there's another one in here that was an active application in 2022, but it was not commissioned or went online until this year. So that's why it's not on this report, because this is all information from 2022. So as you can see, there's varying size systems from a few kilowatts to, I don't know if they're on here yet. No, they're not on here yet. Well, the biggest one we have right now is 39.99 kilowatts, but that got commissioned this year. But as of 2022, there was 167 kilowatt AC with the inverter on our system. And then it asks for the estimated production of those systems, which it's an estimate, but based on their size and the calculation, it came up with 191,088 kilowatt hours. And then that excess is what they sold back to us as at the utility. And the price is what we paid back for that excess electricity. So that's kind of a summary of.
And that's total since they've all been in service?
Yes, so some of these didn't produce, there's a 10 kilowatt system. There was no excess and nothing got purchased back because whatever that system produced, they used. It was designed that way.
But Derek, this was just for year
This is just for,
2022.
this is just for,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sorry, this is just for 2022. Correct. So next year I'll have 2023, and if these are all online and an additional 3 or 4 that I know of at the beginning of this year and all of next year, look probably quite different.
Got it.
Yeah. And then on top of that is the rates that we buy back, which actually we purchase that electricity back from the customer at a higher price than what we sell.
Can I get a motion, or is there any other questions?
That's going to talk, so we have to do the first one, right?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 annual cogeneration report filing.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the report?
It's a resolution. isn't it?
No, this one.
Oh, the next one's a resolution? Oh,
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And now the next one is Beth with the rate schedule.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We are asking to offer the resolution to approve the cogeneration and small power production rate schedule. So this is something that we do every year and update our cogeneration energy rates. So we have done that, and should they be approved today, the rates will be effective with the April 1 billing. The rates are all listed in your commission action form. The residential rates will change from 12.72 cents per kilowatt hour to 13.14 cents per kilowatt hour. Small commercial rates changing from 11.88 cents per kilowatt hour to 12.33 cents per kilowatt hour. Large commercial rates changing from 9.27 cents per kilowatt hour to 9.61 cents per kilowatt hour. Also, our simultaneous purchase and sale billing changing from 4.131 cents to 4.337. Our time of day rate changing from the same for on and off peak both at 4.131 cents to 4.337 cents per kilowatt hour. Are there any questions at all?
I will offer the motion to offer the resolution to approve the revised New Ulm Public Utilities cogeneration and small power production rate schedule for 2023 to be effective with the April 1st, 2023 billing.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Finland,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaunis?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
And President Visser.
Yes. Resolution carry then?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next item is after-hour service reconnection.
Commissioners, this is just an update. Within the finance department, throughout the month, we have different shutoffs for the different building cycles. Up to this point, staff has been responsible for being basically on call during those evenings when we leave people that are disconnected during the day. The whole finance staff is non-union hourly employees. They do not receive any compensation for being on call. And they're using their personal cell phones and disrupting their personal lives in order to be on call for those reconnections. So this is in regards to the delinquent accounts, that are disconnected. Staff has expressed the need, and I support them in just not doing the after-hour reconnections. I've spoken with the attorney. They are in support of it. They have no issues with it. The only issue would be is if anybody would want to be reconnected over the weekend, because we need to be able to reconnect them within 24 hours of their request. So that would still be on the table. I don't see that being an issue. Of the 14 after-hours reconnects we've done in the last 3 years, none of them have been on the weekend, so I don't know that that would ever be an issue. But we just wanted to let you know that we're making this change in case you hear from anybody regarding the issue.
So who, so for those weekend ones, who is the on-call person?
They call the power plant first, and then the power plant would contact somebody from our office to get in touch with that customer.
And is there a number of people who could get called? Like, is
Yes,
anyone
there's
having
a few
to?
people that live in town that
Okay.
are generally responsible for answering those phone
Okay,
calls.
so just to make sure someone's not abruptly changing everything they do because of the weekend.
Right, no.
There's
they-
enough
they
people
wouldn't
to
have
go
They
through
don't
the list.
It's very rare that we go into a weekend where anybody is still not connected. We don't disconnect on Fridays.
Okay.
So usually anything that was disconnected on Thursday is already resolved by the time the weekend comes around. So it's
Okay.
very rare that we have anybody hanging out there over the weekend.
Fridays or holidays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That makes sense. That's good.
There's no action, so it's informational only?
Yep.
Okay. The next item is year-end carryovers.
Yes, Commissioners, this is also an annual item that we bring to you every year, the year-end carryovers. So upon closing the books for 2022, there's several line items that were included in the 22 budget, but due to various reasons were not expended in 2022. So there may have been a PO that had been issued. Items are on order, but we haven't received them yet. Maybe projects are in process, that kind of thing. And so we do ask that you carry over those budget dollars into 2023, since they really were 2022 budgeted items. And we do only carry budget dollars over to the extent that there are budget dollars available still from 2022. I won't read them all. There's a number of them there for each department. And that is what we're requesting to be carried over for this year.
And from what I can tell, they were all project related, like capital project.
Most
Related?
of them are capital projects. Not, I wouldn't say all of them, but most of them are.
Okay.
I would make the motion to approve the year-end budget carryovers for the year ending December 31st, 2022.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last item on the agenda is the list of claims.
I'll make the motion to accept the list of claims paid in the amount of $4,370,810.04.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other additional comments? If not, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
I think there's a bunch over there. Oh, I have one too, I guess.